Imagine building a platform that fundamentally rewires internet comedy. An app that launches an entire generation of digital superstars. The literal foundation for the vertical video obsession we see everywhere today. Now, imagine watching that exact same multi-billion-dollar cultural juggernaut completely collapse. Just shut down. Gone. Only 4 years after it launched.
By 2015, this platform had hit a staggering 200 million monthly active users. But here's the wild, unaddressed contradiction at the heart of it all. Despite those hundreds of millions of users generating literally billions of video loops, the platform itself generated absolutely zero native ad revenue. None.
Welcome back to Learning with Pratik. If you're new here, I try to increase neuroplasticity by exploring a new topic every day. I do all the reading and researching so you don't have to. So today's explainer is basically a clinical, data-driven autopsy of Vine. We really need to understand this wild paradox between its massive cultural footprint and its spectacular business failure. Let's dive into exactly how a product goes from a multi-billion-dollar darling to, well, completely dead.
Chapter 1. The 6-Second Revolution. All right, let's rewind to June 2012. Founders Dom Hoffman, Russ Yusupov, and Colin Kroll set out to build a super simple mobile tool for filming on the fly. Now remember, smartphones had some pretty severe technical constraints back then, and mobile bandwidth was, well, slow. So they imposed this strict, non-negotiable 6-second time limit on the videos and made them loop continuously. It's kind of like a giant puzzle for creators. That hyper-constrained format inadvertently forced people to become unbelievably creative. The tech industry? Absolutely mesmerized. In fact, Twitter was so aggressively hyped by the promise of microvlogging that they acquired Vine in October 2012. The price tag? A cool $30 million. And the truly staggering part here? This acquisition happened before the app was even launched to the public. You have to understand the landscape of 2012. The social video war was escalating fast. Twitter was desperate for a weapon in this new frontier, especially since Facebook had just snagged Instagram. They saw Vine as the ultimate multimedia pairing for their text-based platform, a strategic move to absolutely dominate real-time video.
When the app finally hit the iOS store in January 2013, the growth was just explosive. It spread like wildfire. By April, it had seized the #1 spot for free apps. At its peak, Vine saw an incredible 1.5 billion daily loops, sustaining 200 million monthly active users. It totally harnessed pure network effects, an instant massive hit. But, and here is an absolutely crucial lesson for any modern tech consumer or builder, staggering cultural momentum can easily mask deep structural internal rot. Vanity metrics just do not equal a sustainable business. Millions of active users don't automatically translate into a viable product, especially when the whole foundation is built on shifting sand.
Chapter 2. Warning Signs and Competition.
Explosive growth is undeniably intoxicating, right? But it often blinds leadership to external competitive threats. Vine's foundation was actually beginning to fracture almost the very moment it reached the top of the charts. Let's map out the rapid succession of these competitive blows. The biggest external threat arrives almost immediately. In June 2013, Instagram dropped its own video feature, and they gave users a luxurious 15 seconds of footage, plus their famous filters. It was a direct, highly targeted attack on Vine's core demographic. Then, in what I can only describe as a truly bizarre move of corporate self-sabotage, Twitter rolled out its own native 30-second video feature in January 2015. They had essentially funded and launched a Vine killer right inside their own house. Twitter was directly competing with its own subsidiary, completely undercutting Vine's unique value proposition. Now, contrast all that rapid competitor innovation with Vine's stubborn feature stagnation. While competitors like Instagram and Snapchat were rapidly iterating based on what users actually wanted to do, Vine kind of just dug its heels in. They adamantly refused to update their editing tools or evolve that rigid 6-second constraint. They viewed the 6-second loop as this sacred artistic constraint, rather than, a starting point for a dynamic product roadmap. So creators were left doing tedious manual cuts, literally hacking the app just to make basic edits. This brilliantly illustrates the fatal flaw in their strategy, a total refusal to adapt the product to the evolving needs of its most valuable users. They prized their original vision over actual market reality. Chapter 3. The Creator Exodus. This failure to adapt created a devastating disconnect between the platform and the very internet stars who generated its billions of views. These creators built massive loyal followings, but Vine fundamentally failed to understand that these stars weren't just users. They were the actual engine of the platform's overall value in the attention economy.
This massive disconnect boiled over in the fall of 2015. 18 of Vine's top 50 creators held a secret intervention with Vine's creative development lead. Their demand was actually pretty simple: a $1.2 million contract each, guaranteed original posts, and some basic anti-harassment tools. If rejected, they would leave the app. Well, Twitter swiftly rejected the deal, and the result was a massive paradigm shift in the creator economy. The stars simply walked away. They took their enormous audiences straight over to YouTube, Instagram, and Snapchat. The engine had literally left the building.
And while the top creators were running for the exits, the company itself was bleeding internally. The mass exodus of talent was perfectly mirrored by chaotic leadership turnover. Co-founder Dom Huffman stepped down in January 2014. Colin Kroll followed him right out the door in April. And by October 2015, the last remaining founder, Russ Yusupov, was laid off during a massive Twitter workforce reduction. This really highlights a universal truth in tech. When founders leave in rapid succession, the product vision fractures. Vine was left entirely directionless, without a compass, and crucially, without an internal champion to fight for resources at Twitter headquarters. They were a ship entirely adrift at sea.
Chapter 4. The Monetization Failure.
To really understand why the plug was ultimately pulled, we have to examine the brutal financial math and the complete lack of advertising infrastructure that eventually forced Twitter's hand. By 2016, the server and operational costs just to keep Vine online hovered around $10 million every single month. To put that into perspective, that's enough to bankroll a Hollywood blockbuster over the course of a year. But remember, it was bringing in absolutely nothing in native ad revenue. To make matters exponentially worse, the parent company, Twitter, was a publicly traded entity facing immense Wall Street pressure, and they were bleeding cash. They were eating a massive $103 million quarterly loss. The math was simply unsustainable. Vine was basically an insanely expensive luxury that Twitter could no longer afford to subsidize. CEO Jack Dorsey needed to slash costs aggressively to appease shareholders, so Vine went straight to the chopping block. A $30 million acquisition, costing $120 million a year to run, yielding absolutely zero return.
You can see this fatal flaw with striking clarity when you contrast Vine's zero revenue share model against TikTok's modern ecosystem. Vine entirely lacked the financial safety net of platforms like YouTube or TikTok. They treated their biggest stars like passive users, rather than essential business partners who actually needed to earn a living. TikTok, observing this historic failure, didn't just win on algorithmic supremacy. They won on economics. They proactively rolled out creator funds and highly monetized tools, treating their creators as small businesses. They ensured their talent could make real money without ever having to leave the platform. Vine starved its creators. TikTok funded them.
Chapter 5. Legacy and Lessons Learned. Vine's legacy is a profound paradox. I mean, it was the absolute architect of modern vertical video. It reshaped digital humor and proved beyond a doubt that short-form video was a massive, untapped market. Yet, despite laying the very groundwork for the modern internet, it couldn't save itself. It's literally a cautionary tale taught in business schools today. The clinical root causes of death are clear, and they are entirely self-inflicted. First, a complete lack of creator monetization. Second, strategic neglect by a distracted parent company. Third, a stubborn failure to evolve product constraints. And finally, a weak, almost non-existent advertising infrastructure. Delivered together, these failures form the ultimate thesis of our explainer today. Vine serves as the ultimate proof that explosive user growth means absolutely nothing if you cannot figure out a sustainable business model.
History in the tech world absolutely loves to repeat itself, so take a close look around the social media landscape today. Look at the platforms out there right now that are prioritizing user growth over actually paying their creators, or the ones constantly clashing with their corporate parent companies. Based on the hard data we've just gone through, which modern platform is repeating Vine's exact mistakes right now? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for watching. Tomorrow we open a different page. Until then, Pratik, out.